guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to my channel. We are going to be discussing financial literacy today. Now we have a problem with financial literacy in this country where an overwhelming majority of people are considered to be financially illiterate. So we're going to go over it a little bit. So in the simplest terms, what is financial literacy? Financial literacy is having a basic understanding of money concepts. And when you do, it allows you to make better decisions with your money. AKA, if you understand money better, you make smart decisions with your money. Being financially literate means you understand money well enough to know when to save versus when to spend, or when to buy insurance and what types you need to buy and how much you need to buy, or when to invest and what types of investments are best for you, and how to appropriately manage debt and everything else money related. So before we get too deep into it, please hit that like button, and we're gonna go over the top 5 signs to see if you are financially literate. Let's get to it. Number 1, financially literate people keep a budget. Now I know budgets come up a lot on this channel, but there's a simple reason for that. Budgets are the foundation of finance. So if you get a budget, you know you're doing the right thing. Budgets keep you accountable. You know where your income is coming from and where all your money is going. You know your regular bills, all your regular debts. You know your expenses and you can plan for them accordingly. You can only improve on the things that you can measure, and budgets allow you to measure all of your money on a monthly basis. Now, it doesn't really matter where you keep your budget. Some people do it through apps. There are various out there. Some people do it through a web-based program like mint.com, or some people just go old school and keep an Excel spreadsheet. That's actually what I do. There is no one right way. Whatever allows you to track your expenses and help you build your wealth, that's the one that you should do. So pick the one you like and keep a budget. Number 2, financially literate people prioritize savings. It is as simple as that. And they know the difference between the various types of savings. We have 3 types. We have emergency fund savings, short-term savings, and long-term savings. So having your emergency fund means that you have several $1,000s set aside should there ever be an emergency or should you lose your job. This should cover 3 to 6 months worth of your necessary expenses. And this is actually quite rare in our society. 70% of people say that they would not be able to come up with $1,000 should an emergency happen tomorrow. Financially literate people know the difference. They have their emergency fund and they are able to come up with the money should a rainy day happen. Next, we have short-term savings. Now, these are not savings that you're investing in things like the stock market because it can be quite volatile, as we have seen lately, for example. These are going to be in maybe a high-yield savings account, and it's saving for something that's going to happen in the next 6 months to maybe just a few years. It could be a down payment on a house, perhaps a new car, a wedding, a trip that you would like to take with your family. These are your short-term savings goals. So you have your own separate account for those as well. And then next we have long-term savings. This is looking at a time horizon of maybe 5 years or more. 2 really good examples for this category would be things like saving for your child's education, so a college fund, or your own personal retirement. And these kind of savings can be invested into the stock market and in more risky environments because you have a longer time horizon. It doesn't really matter if the stock market takes a tumble now if you don't really need that money for, say, 18 years, or in the case of retirement, maybe 30 or 40 years. You can handle little bumps in the road, so you can invest more aggressively and allow it to grow higher. Financially literate people know the difference between these types of savings, and trust me, they have all 3 because all 3 matter. Next up, financially literate people understand compound interest. They understand that it can be the greatest tool out there when it comes to building wealth, but they also understand that if you let it work against you, it can keep you in a pile of debt that is almost impossible to get out of. Financially literate people know how to make compound interest work for them. So when we're talking about compound interest, we would most likely think of investments. So financially literate people are going to invest in, say, a retirement account and allow compound interest to work years and years and years on this money and basically build it up to 7 figures, 8 figures, and basically allow you to live a life that you've always dreamed of. It gives you financial freedom. You put a small amount away every month, every year, and over a couple decades time, it has grown to far more than you could ever imagine. Compound interest is what makes millionaires. You need time on your side, but invest it and invest it regularly, and it can turn into millions. Now, compound interest can also work against you. An example of this would be credit card payments. So if you have a $1,000 balance on your credit card and your current interest rate is somewhere around 20%, let's say, if you don't pay that off, that 20% compounds every single month, and that balance keeps going up, or it at least takes forever to be paid off because you're fighting against that growing interest rate. There's nowhere else in the world where you can be guaranteed to get 20% interest except credit card companies. And they make a lot of money. They are billion-dollar corporations. They know what they are doing with compound interest, and it is not working in your favor if you are not paying off your credit cards. Pay off your credit cards. Do not allow a compound interest to work against you. Do not pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in interest to these companies. Invest your money. Let compound interest work for you. Never pay someone compound interest. You only want to be paid compound interest yourself. Next up, financially literate people know how to utilize debt. Debt can certainly be a 4-letter word if you do not know how to use it appropriate. So in America, we have a big problem with debt. People overextend themselves all the time, and we end up in a bad cycle of debt repayment. So if you have any sort of consumer debt, credit card debt, auto loan debt, student loans, as a lot of Americans do, you should be actively paying these off as aggressively as you possibly can, especially if any of these are at an interest rate of over 4%. Financially literate people do not allow debt to rule their lives. They pay it off as quickly as possible. The only debt you should really have is a mortgage debt if you happen to own your own home. And especially if you're a millennial or a Gen Xer, until you hit the age of 45 or so, there's really no need to aggressively pay off your home, especially with current interest rates being so low. Take your money and invest it elsewhere and allow it to grow. Allow it to work for you. That is something financially literate people do. They allow their money to work for them. But any other debts, pay them off aggressively. And also, financially literate people know when it's appropriate to take on debt. It's not that debt is always bad, but there are bad forms of debt. You never want to take a cash advance from your credit card because the interest rates they charge are absolutely terrible. You never want to dip into your retirement accounts. Those are there for your future self, and there is no loan when it comes to retirement. So leave those accounts alone and allow them to continue growing. And it's a very rare instance when you actually want to tap into the equity on your home, if you actually have equity there, because your home is an asset and you want to leave it untouched. So financially literate people actually know what types of debt they can best utilize and what types best serve them. They're not just taking on any unnecessary debts, and they use debt as a tool. And they know if it is not used wisely, that tool can actually be very dangerous to their financial future. Utilize debt appropriately. And finally, financially literate people know to think big picture when it comes to money. First and foremost, they understand that small sacrifices today, aka saving money and putting it away for their future, will allow them to have a brighter future than they could ever otherwise hope for. As Dave Ramsey, the Money King himself, says, live like no one else, so you can eventually live like no one else. That means we sacrifice a little bit today, which most people do not do or are unwilling to do, so that we can live a life of financial freedom with greater opportunities than we could ever hope for. Another thing financially literate people do is when they think big picture about money is that they actually know there's more to items than simply the price tag. Many items you buy come with far more expenses than are advertised. Take, for example, buying a new car. A car comes with more than just the price tag on the lot. There's the regular maintenance and upkeep, licensing fees. If you live in a city, often it's quite expensive to keep a parking spot for this car, or there's just daily parking fees within the city or tolls. so they know to factor these in. And a lot of different cars have very different maintenance schedules, so that can play a big factor into which is the appropriate decision. Or buying a house. It's more than the price tag on the house. There's closing fees, there's real estate agent fees, HOAs, insurances, maintenance on the house. All of these things come with more than just the advertised price tag. Many purchases actually have added expenses that come down the road, and financially literate people know to factor these in as well, because it can actually make a big decision on what purchase you make. And finally, another big picture item that financially literate people do think about is insurance. They know it's beneficial to pay for health insurance because otherwise you could become bankrupt should a medical emergency happen. Or they know to buy life insurance so that if something should unfortunately happen to them, that their family is taken care of for the foreseeable future. Financially literate people know how to utilize all of these things. It comes with a big picture thinking, knowing, not only thinking about today, but thinking about the future. And the more you understand about money, the more you can think about how those things are going to affect you down the road. Being financially literate allows you to be in control of your money rather than having your money control you. It allows you to make well thought out decisions that serve you best. When you are financially literate, you can weigh all your options that you have to do with your money, and you know how to appropriately allocate your dollars to each of those so that they best serve you. Financially literate people save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars because they know how to make their money work for them rather than constantly working for their money. If for some reason you don't think that you are totally financially literate, it is time to change that. And there are always ways to improve. Number one source I recommend is reading. There are a number of really great books out there on personal finance, and they can be found on any subject like budgeting, future financial planning, retirement, etc. I would read, if I was new to the field, at least one book a month. I still read about one book a week. I love this topic and I'm continually learning, and I never want to stop. But please start by picking up just a couple books. It'll make all the difference in the world. The second place to find out more financial information is video sites like this. YouTube is a great resource, and there are plenty of free videos out there that can help you better understand personal finance. And also, I always recommend reading 1 or 2 articles a day on the news sites, maybe CNN Money or Yahoo Finance. These places will kind of keep you in the loop of what's going on in the current economy, and the more you read, you'll find the more you understand. And finally, talk to people. The less we talk about money, the harder it is to understand. Money should not be a taboo subject. Open up a dialogue. Encourage people around you to talk about money. And also, if you feel like you're completely stuck, seek out a certified financial planner, a fee-only advisor, aka they only charge you for their time. They're not charging you commissions or trying to sell you products, but they are great resources and they can help get you started and help keep you going towards your goals. Fee-only financial planners. Anyone can call themselves a financial advisor, so be very careful with your labeling. There are online sites that allow you to appropriately seek out who is the best for you. Again, fee-only financial advisors. They're a wealth of knowledge and they can absolutely explain any questions you have. And remember, money, wealth building, finance, it's all a marathon. It's not, we have to have all the answers today. Just make sure that you're actively taking steps towards building your wealth, towards increasing your financial knowledge, and you know you're on the right path. Before you go, if you got anything out of this video at all, please hit that like button below. I'd so appreciate it. Hit subscribe, and I'll be hitting you with a lot of money videos, and I can help increase your financial literacy. Have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye.